Once upon a time, life itself was a mystery. Its processes invisible, its rules unknown, and its origins steeped in myth. Welcome to Uncover Time, where we explore the great turning points in science and thought, and follow the minds that transformed mystery into knowledge and observation into truth. In the age of the Royal Society, a group of brilliant minds turned their attention to living things, asking how plants grow, how animals breathe, and what invisible forces sustain life. Robert Hooke, the ever-curious experimenter, placed lettuce seeds in two different environments, one under open sky, the other inside a vacuum, and watched with wonder as only the seeds exposed to air began to grow, revealing that air is essential to life. Hooke soon connected this to combustion and respiration, realizing that the same part of air used in burning is also needed by plants and animals to breathe, and he called this active part nitrous. Centuries before oxygen was fully understood, his experiments didn't stop there. By blowing air into the lungs of suffocating animals using bellows, he showed that artificial breathing could restore life, and this insight echoed through the future of medicine. With his microscope, Hooke peered into the unseen world and gave it a name. He discovered that all living tissue is made of tiny compartments and coined the word cell to describe them, astonishing the world by estimating over 1 billion cells in a single cube of cork. He invited others to look too, publishing his drawings in Microscope, where the secret structures of insects and plants were drawn with a clarity no one had seen before. Alongside him was John Redi, a humble blacksmith's son-turned scholar who refused to betray his conscience and left Cambridge to explore the natural world with his student, Francis Willoughby. Together, they traveled across Europe, cataloging plants and animals with scientific precision. Willoughby focused on birds and fishes, while Redi laid the foundations of English botany. Redi gave us a new way to classify plants, dividing them into those with one seed leaf and those with two. And he was the first to use the word species in its modern biological sense, a group of organisms that could reproduce their own kind. His 3-volume masterpiece, Historia Generalis Plantarum, described over 18,000 species of plants, and when paired with Linnaeus's later work, it prepared the ground for the great debate on evolution. Redi also completed Willoughby's studies of animals and created the first truly scientific classification of mammals, insisting that order and clarity must guide all study of nature. Meanwhile, a fresh beauty was discovered in flowers. Nehemiah grew. A quiet observer with a microscope announced that plants have sex, calling the stamens male and the pistils female, and describing pollen as their seed. He believed, wrongly, that all plants were hermaphrodites, but his observations revived ancient knowledge lost since Theophrastus, who once noted that date palms needed male dust to bear fruit. It was Rudolf Camerarius who corrected the record, proving that if a plant's anthers were removed, the part that holds pollen, it would bear no fruit. Confirming the sexual system of plants beyond doubt, on the very day that Grew submitted his first work on plant anatomy to the Royal Society, another genius, Marcello Malpighi of Italy, sent his own manuscript. Together, they launched the science of plant histology. Malpighi would later shift his focus to animals, while Mariotte showed that plants draw nutrition from the water they drink through their roots, though none yet knew that they also fed from the air. The ancient belief that life could arise from rotting matter, from slime or dead meat, was deeply shaken when Francesco Redi, an Italian physician, performed a simple yet revolutionary experiment. By covering meat and keeping flies away, he proved that maggots did not appear unless insects could lay their eggs. and he wrote the words that changed biology forever. Every living thing comes from an egg. Though some revived the old theory after protozoa were discovered, Redi's truth would be defended again and again by Spallanzani in 1767 and Pasteur in 1861, until it stood unshaken. The discovery of those tiny single-celled organisms, now called protozoa, was the great gift of this age to zoology, and at its center stood Anton van Leeuwenhoek of Delft, a man with no formal training but a genius for lenses. He built hundreds of microscopes by hand, some possibly ground by the philosopher Spinoza. And through these sparkling instruments he entered a world no human had seen, where raindrops swarmed with life. Looking at water that had stood in a pot for days, he was stunned to find creatures 10,000 times smaller than water fleas, and among them was the first recorded description of a protozoon, the bell and In 1683 he went further, discovering bacteria on his own teeth, and he startled his neighbors by revealing countless tiny creatures in their spit. Life forms too small for any eye but his. By 1677, he had discovered sperm cells, observing their motion and marveling at the billions found in a single drop. And in the milt of a codfish, he estimated 150 billion sperm, more than the entire human population. Another Dutchman, Jan Swammerdam, lived with equal passion, but far greater pain. Born for theology, he turned to medicine and then to insects, dissecting bees with obsessive care. He described the full lives of creatures like the mayfly and the honeybee, revealing their stages of growth and their inner structures in breathtaking detail. But his work exhausted him. After writing his treatise on bees, he fell ill, gave up science, and returned to religion, as if torn between truth and faith, knowledge and hope, like so many in his time. Before he died at 43, he showed that muscles could still respond to nerve stimulation even when cut from the body. And he argued that decay does not create life. Instead, tiny organisms cause decay. With this, he not only confirmed Redi's truth, but helped establish the foundations of modern entomology and microscopic anatomy. Their microscopes changed the world, and with them, biology was no longer guesswork or poetry, but a science with eyes sharp enough to see the secrets of life. Today, the cells that Hooke once saw through a simple lens are now decoded by geneticists who read their DNA like ancient scripts, revealing mutations, diseases, and hidden histories written in the code of life. The bacteria that Leeuwenhoek found on his teeth now form the basis of microbiome. Research. Scientists now know that the trillions of microbes living in our gut can shape our immune systems, influence our mood, and even affect our behavior. Plant sexuality, once misunderstood, is now fully mapped at the molecular level, from genetically engineered crops that resist drought to flowers modified to bloom in any season. The secrets of pollen and pistils now shape the global food supply. Thanks to Malpighi and Grew, who first studied plant tissue, we now engineer living systems at the cellular level. From vertical farming that grows food without soil, to lab-grown meat that never came from a living animal. The sperm cells that Leeuwenhoek saw in amazement are now central to fertility science, where doctors can guide single sperm to single eggs and edit genes before birth. While ethical debates echo the wonder and fear first felt in the 1600s, the theory that life cannot arise from non-living matter, proven by Redi and Swammerdam, has been re-examined by astrobiologists who now study how life might emerge on distant worlds. Not by myth or magic, but through chemical evolution under alien skies. From cork cells to CRISPR, from pollen to protein folding, The foundations laid by 17th-century eyes now support biotechnology labs that store life's blueprints, reprogram viruses, and fight pandemics with vaccines designed in days. Their world was powered by candles and curiosity, ours by data and digital light. Yet the thread is unbroken. As the dream of understanding life continues, cell by cell, discovery by discovery. Thank you for watching Uncover Time. If history moves you, like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into the minds that shaped our future.